Hello everyone, my name is Brendan Snyder. Thank you so much for joining me and welcome to another episode of New Music Finds number 79. So this is where I like to collect together all the new music that I've purchased over the past week and present it to you. And I get it from different places like my local record stores, of which I hit up 2 different ones this past week. Had a lot of fun at those. Talk about that as part of this video here. And then also I get it from online retail like Amazon, eBay, and more. I've got 20 CDs and 3 records to go through with you, and we'll dive into that in just a bit here. But before we do, if you're new to my channel and you haven't already hit the subscribe button, please click the button. Also leave a comment, hit like, all those things help support my channel. I would greatly appreciate it. And of course, as an added bonus, by subscribing, you'll be able to stay up to date on all that's going on in the world of music, just like this with New Music Finds, episode number 79. So as we normally do here, we kick off with new releases. It had been a little bit that some stuff had come out that I really wanted, and I had been hitting up mostly just my favorite local record stores, which of course I did again, but I've got a couple new things here to go through with you. Now I actually ordered 5 things, but only 2 of them came out. So the other 3 things, or I said 2 came out, 2 that I received. The other 3 things you'll see later in another episode when they arrive, but for now at least, we're going to start with Goo Goo Dolls and their brand new release, Chaos in Bloom. Really good album. No, it's not like their classic stuff back from the 90s. It is definitely in the pop vein that they've been for, 10, 20 years at this point. But I really like this album. I have to say, after the last few albums, it didn't really connect with me. This one here really did, and very much enjoyed it. Maybe I was just in the right mood for it, but I thought the first single that they released, called Yeah, I Like You, was a fantastic one. It really warmed me up for the album, and the rest of the album did not disappoint. Next one up, brand new Collective Soul album. This one is called Vibrating. Like the Goo Goo Dolls, this one here, first single off of this here, All Our Pieces, really connected with me, made me excited for this album. The follow-up single called Cut the Cord, same thing, really good single. I actually thought Cut the Cord should have been the first one, followed by All Our Pieces, but probably my favorite of those 2 tracks is All Our Pieces, so I'm guessing that's why they went that way. But same thing, last couple Collective Soul albums didn't really speak to me very much. This one did. Very glad I picked up those 2. If you haven't listened to those 2 bands in a while, I think these 2 releases are definitely worth checking out. Now here's an interesting thing. So one of my subscribers, David Bella, he's recorded music himself. He wanted to send something to me, have me check it out. And I don't usually get into too much of that stuff here, but I have to say what he sent was really good. I don't know if he sells any of this stuff online or whatnot. You can leave a comment if you're interested. But here's his album, and it's called Think Outside the Burning Box. I'll show that to you again. That is David there. Very cool album art. I happen to like that, and it drew me in as well. But the music on here is pretty good, or really good, I should say, really good, but like sort of straight up Southern rock, boogie style, sort of Southern fried, good rock and roll. So it's not just Southern rock. I wouldn't necessarily just put that banner on it, because it bridges a little bit more than that here, but that's what I took away. That's what I felt. I am a big Southern rock fan, so maybe that's why I felt that way on it. David can maybe explain more of what he would call it, but it's good rock and roll. And I thought I'd put it on and it would kind of be so-so or whatever, but very impressed with it. I'm not just saying that because I'm sure he's watching here, but I really liked it. So that's why I'm reviewing it and talking about it here. David Bella. David, if you don't have it up for people to stream and or you're not selling copies of it, you should, because I think it's some pretty good music here. He should be recording more. This was 2018, and yeah, I like it. So thanks, David, for sending that out to me. I do appreciate that. All right. So of course, as I said, I hit up 2 different record stores, and you guys know I love going to my favorite one, which is Sound Exchange. I only just found that place on June 27th. Okay, it's not that long ago. I have already bought 87 CDs from that store. That's how good they are. And I'm not getting paid anything to promote them. It's just after such a long time of not having a record store to call my own, I finally feel like I found one that is my record store. Not just one that has a good amount of CDs or something of that nature, but is actually a good record store. Full of stuff, a lot of rarities, good people, fun to hang out in, like all of that, the way that we remember it. That's Sound Exchange. That's why I keep going there. I get people, that have been asking and saying, why don't you go to some other record stores? You keep going to the same one, kind of a thing. It's that great. Anyway, I hit it up a couple times this past week. First thing up that I picked up were these two things. Neil Morse Band, called Innocent in Danger, their latest album. It is a double album. And it's because I was listening to Flying Colors, which is Neil Morse along with Steve Morse. Steve Morse, having just left Deep Purple, I pulled it out for that reason. Neil Morse also formerly part of Spock's Beard, which I like. But I never was really able to get into the Neil Morse solo recordings or this project here called the Neil Morse Band. It's got Mike Portnoy in it, along with some other amazing musicians. And so I picked this one up because I wanted more of that Flying Colors sound, and this worked for me. So I was very glad that I picked it up. Really excellent. Basically another new release, just reviewing it here after. It's been out for maybe a couple months, I think, at this point. This was a pretty cool find. I'd been hunting for this for a long time. It goes for quite a bit online. Fergie Frederiksen, former vocalist with Toto, sang on the album Isolation. Love that album. It was a one-off thing. I don't think they quite gelled as a band because he was out, shortly thereafter. Equilibrium, first solo album from him. He's done other things. There he is on the back of this here. It's got a who's who of guest players backing him up. Ricky Phillips from Bad English, Bruce Gowdy from Unruly Child, Jason Schiff from Chicago, Ron Wixow from Foreigner, Neil Schon of Journey, Steve Porcaro from Toto. So you can see why it is such a good album. But did that. Hit up Sound Exchange a little later in the week. Of course, I go down there and I do some filming with Anthony and things like that. So if I'm going to be down there doing that, I'm going to be picking stuff up too. One of the ones that was a surprising find for me. Now, I've got a compilation of this or a collection of the albums, and you guys saw it or may have seen it if you watched Monday's What's That You're Listening To, but Bad Moon Rising Blood. So I pulled that out because, or the triple album thing that I had there, which is the collection. But finding this, the actual standalone album, Doug Aldridge and Cal Swan, both of Lion. Doug Aldridge, of course, going on to play with Dio and Whitesnake, now with the Dead Daisies. Great album, 1993 album. Only released in Japan at the time. Smoking guitar work on it. If you're a fan of that late 80s, early 90s glam metal sound and want more of it, Bad Moon Rising continued it for 3 great albums. Clive Nolan and Oliver Wakeman, Jabberwocky. Interesting prog rock, prog metal sounding stuff. Concept album here. It's got some cool people guesting on it. Bob Catley of Magnum, Peter Banks of Yes. We've got Rick Wakeman of Yes on here narrating, because Oliver Wakeman is his son, so of course he can get his dad on here. Clive Nolan, of course, coming from Arena and Pendragon, and Oliver Wakeman would go on to actually play with Yes, although at this point in time he had not yet played with Yes. It's funny, everyone gets a billing on here but Oliver Wakeman, and of course now he's played with so many people that he would, of course, get his own billing. I had been listening to a lot of instrumental guitar and pulled out some Randy Coven instrumental bass stuff, really loved it. Was able to go in and actually find 2 more things. A best of, which the reason I picked this up is it's got 6 tracks from CPR, which was Coven, Petrelli, and O'Reilly. And I didn't have that. I'm having trouble finding that. I mean, it's out there. I'm just looking for a good deal on it. But had 6 tracks on there from that, and then of course 2 or 5 tracks and 5 tracks apiece from the Randy Coven solo albums. Randy Coven being a phenomenal bass player that shreds on the bass the way that most guitar players shred on the guitar. He's doing it on a bass, so very interesting stuff. And found this later day era Randy Coven album called Which Way, spelled W-I-T-C-H. So cool that was there. Wasn't expecting that. Love going in there, asking for something, and I'm saying, nah, we don't have any, more of that sort of stuff. And then I go out to the section and find 2 more things there. So that's cool. Even the store people don't know the full range of the stock that is out there on the floor, which makes that discovery even more fun sometimes. And found this, something I totally wasn't expecting. Cats and Boots. It's called, or sort of subtitled, Ellis and Ohashi. Those were the two main guys from Cats and Boots. You've got the vocalist Ellis and Ohashi being the guitar player. So Joel Ellis. And then Ohashi went by the name Jam, but I don't remember his Japanese first name. So the Cats and Boots, if you don't know, were a two American, two Japanese musician pairing up kind of a thing, East meets West. This was a reunion album of sorts, or supposed to be, I should say, recorded in 93 to 95, and unfortunately the reunion didn't pan out, and they went their separate ways. And in 99, it got a Japanese release. These are 8-track demos. They're a little rough, a little raw. It's cool to hear. Nothing like the original Cats and Boots stuff that was full-on sleaze metal, glam metal sound type stuff. This is more singer-songwriter kind of stuff. Joel Ellis is singing more in a regular register. I don't know if that was just for the demos or they were really trying to do something new, but they were trying to have a Cats and Boots reunion. So interesting, they were going to sound different, but yet call it the same thing. Anyway, some of you guys wanted to know what this sounded like and do a little review on it, and that's it there. So just know that it doesn't sound like Cats and Boots, and it's a little rough and raw because they're 8-track demos. They were not professionally recorded. But if you're a completist like me and you really, really like that band, of course you're going to want to hear that to check that out. All right, so then I also hit up new record store for me, Princeton Record Exchange in Princeton, New Jersey. Got a Let's Go to the Record Store video posted up on that. I will leave a link in the description if you haven't already checked that out. It is a really cool place, and I got bunches of stuff going down there. First up, City Boy, It's Personal, 1981 album. I've only got one other City Boy album, which draw a blank on the name of that one at this moment, but it's from the 70s. And only recently kind of found that I liked their sound from the 80s better. But I've always been interested in the band because of Mike Slammer. Mike Slammer I knew from Streets, and Streets was fronted by Kansas frontman Steve Walsh, keyboardist also. So it's one of those things where I knew Mike Slammer before I knew him from City Boy, but City Boy has a bit of a different sound from that. Still cool checking that out. Really great find. Canadian band FM, not the British band, Black Noise. Interesting group that they've got their main instrument being a violinist. In fact, no guitar player. They've got Cameron in here, and he's synthesizers, bass, piano, and lead vocals. And then we got Martin in here, drums and percussions, also synthesizer. And then we've got Nash the Slash on electric violin, mandolin, glockenspiel, also vocals and effects on here. Ben Mink actually would later take over on violin and play towards the end of the band as well, if you know who Ben Mink is. Okay, found a couple cool Rock Candy Records reissues. Nuts 2. Great Canadian band. These guys, I believe, were a British band. This was 1975 album here, so as you'd imagine, pretty straight up 70s rock and roll. Eventually, they would rename themselves to Rage, and this was 1981. I think this is their second album. What was cool is I put this on, and I'm listening to it, and the, 8th track on here is Blame It on the Night. Blame It on the Night was I don't actually know the writer, so I can't say that written by this person, but Joe Lynn Turner when he fronted Fandango. And I love Fandango, found Fandango because of Joe Lynn Turner, but ended up falling in love with the band and really liked that as Joe Lynn Turner's first band. So that's one of the best songs that Fandango ever did, and it's on here. So that was kind of a cool thing because Fandango's this very underrated rock band that doesn't really get a lot of love, and to find out that one of their tracks has appeared over here is very cool. Just another little connection, and I like those kind of connections through all of these things. And sort of speaking of connections, this next one was pretty cool. King of Hearts, subtitled 1989. It's actually written there on the spine too, so when I was in the store and I saw 1989, I thought, all right, something's from 1989, let me check it out. Love that era. Flipped it over, Tommy Funderburk on vocals, Kelly Keagy on vocals and drums. Mispronounced the name saying Kelly Keeling, or I said Kelly Keagy, but then I gave the wrong band. I mentioned Baton Rouge, but Baton Rouge was Kelly Keeling on vocals. And just didn't connect with me, but Kelly Keagy as Night Ranger. And I was sitting there saying to myself, well, I didn't know Kelly Keeling played drums, because he doesn't. Or I don't know that he does. But Kelly Keagy of Night Ranger does. So I actually ended up liking this even more when I found out that it was, you know, a band-to-band situation with the Night Ranger guy on here. We also got George Hawkins Jr. on vocals and Bruce Gatch, not sure if I'm saying that right, on guitars. Maybe a little supergroup there, not sure of the other two people, but Kelly Keagy on here and Tommy Funderburk, very cool. So I was glad to pick this up, and it's what you'd expect. It's melodic AOR rock stuff. I mean, look at the haircuts on here. Anthony, who I was with, if you saw in the video from Let's Go to the Record Store, Princeton Record Exchange, said, it's a bunch of Richard Marx haircuts. So true. What I found was funny as I opened it up, and it specifically references who their manager was, which was Richard Marx' manager, and they even state that. So it was sort of like, oh wow, it even has more connection to Richard Marx. It wasn't just the fact that they looked that way. Next thing up, I mispronounced also. I just guess I was tongue-tied during that video. CWF. In the video I said GWF, but you can see why that looks like a G, right? Anyway, C. The C in here stood for Champlin, Bill Champlin of Chicago. And then the W in here is from Joseph Williams of Toto. And we also have Peter Freestead in here, and not sure where he comes from. I've got to look it up. You guys can leave comments and tell me if you want. That's fine. I'll probably have looked it up by the time you tell me. But Joseph Williams of Toto and Bill Champlin of Chicago. So, I mean, what's not to love about that? More great melodic rock stuff. Now, I bought this just to flesh out my collection. Didn't think I was going to fall in love with this as much as I did. And it's one of my favorite things that I picked up from the record store visit. Eric Johnson, Via Musicom. Now, I had mentioned that I've been listening to a lot of instrumental guitar and stuff like that, and you saw that I picked up the Randy Coven, and because of Al Pitrelli playing on that stuff there, he's an amazing guitar player. Eric Johnson, of course, phenomenal guitar player, great vocalist too, amazing songwriter. This one here having the instrumental track Cliffs of Dover that he's most famous for, won him a Grammy, caused the album to sell 1 million copies, go platinum, all those great things. And, you know, I'm trying to remember if I even owned this back in the day. I thought I had gotten rid of it, and that's why I was kind of even hesitant on buying it. But I put it on, and it was so good. I have to think now, maybe I never owned this one back in the day. But I'm just loving this now. The whole thing from start to finish is really, really good. And it's one of those great surprise sort of finds that just clicks at the right moment. So really glad I picked that up. Of the new original studio albums that were from Emerson, Lake and Palmer, the one that I didn't own was Tarkus. And I'd gone into a couple different record stores, asked for it, didn't have it. And I don't remember if it's out of print now or it was just something that was going to take a really long time to order online, so I didn't do it at the time and sort of decided to put off until I run into a copy. And I found it, and I think it was $3.99, but it might have been even less than that. Just Princeton has really great prices. Dollar CDs, $1.99 to like $4.99 kind of stuff, and then they got some newer stuff that's in there. But I didn't pay more than $9.99 for any of the stuff, and I think even the $9.99 was sealed in plastic still, kind of stuff. I found plenty of $1.99 ones sealed in plastic too. But anyway, another one where last one that I'm picking up has a 20-minute opening track on it, which is the title track Tarkus. I absolutely loved it. So I just love it when that happens. You pick something up, you kind of think, I'm just fleshing out the collection. I don't really need it. Should I even buy it? And then you get home and it turns out to be the best thing that you bought out of all the other stuff. So love it when that happens. Also picked up another Emerson, Lake and Palmer Works Volume 2. This one here was B-sides, outtakes, stuff like that. Stuff, some of it's a little bit raw kind of stuff, not an album of original new material, which is why I don't sort of classify it in that, but again, just flushing out the collection. Although, was enjoying that one too, but definitely enjoying Tarkus, their second album there. And one that was a really good find, the Mick Ronson Primer promo album that collects together his latest single at the time. He had already passed away, and the album he was working on was then fleshed out by a bunch of famous musicians. So the track on here, Don't Look Down, featured Joe Elliott on here with him. I think Joe Elliott is singing on it with Mick Ronson playing, because Mick Ronson hadn't gotten around to doing his vocals, kind of a thing. Something along that lines. Don't quote me on it, I could be wrong, but if I remember correctly about it. And so what I didn't realize is that he had played on so many big songs, and they collect together those famous hits on here. Now, I knew he was part of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars, so we got the song Ziggy Stardust by David Bowie on here. Didn't know he played on Once Bitten, Twice Shy by Ian Hunter. Of course, know that one from Great White. And didn't know that he played on Jack and Diane by John Mellencamp. So that was a cool find. Walk on the Wild Side by Lou Reed. All the Young Dudes by Mott the Hoople. And Just Another Night, Ian Hunter. And then the last one on here really surprised me. What We Hate When Our Friends Become Successful, Morrissey. Didn't know he played with Morrissey. So 8 tracks covering the gauntlet of his contributions. Very cool. And just albums that you can't buy in general promo copy, meaning this was pressed up just to promote his new album, Heaven and Hole, Hole being where he's from in the UK. I don't know if it was given out to radio stations or what it was given out to, but you couldn't go to a store and buy this. So found it for $1.99. How great is that? All right, and I picked up some vinyl. Greg Hawkes, Niagara Falls, one and only solo album from 1983 from the keyboardist from the Cars. It's an instrumental album. Predominantly, I think there might be some vocal effects on here, stuff like that. But if you like the Cars, I think you're going to like this. Really, really good. Enjoyed that, and only just found out recently that he even had a solo album. It's just one of those ones that's never been pressed to CD, as far as I know. And for whatever reason, it's not talked about. So I had the Benjamin Orr, and Elliot Easton, 2 other guys. Of course, the Rick Ocasek stuff as well, but did not have that. Glad to find that. That was unexpected. Found Boulevard, decided to take a chance on it. Canadian band, connection with Loverboy. Turns out just as good. Melodic hard rock stuff from the 80s. Really, really good. This is 1988. Found out they got a bunch of other albums, so I'm going to be checking them out, seeing if I can find some CD stuff. And this one I haven't listened to because it's still sealed in plastic. We'll be opening it eventually, but Frankie and the Knockouts. This one here, so I had a couple months back, went to another store. Interestingly, the store that I found this Frankie and the Knockouts is also called Sound Exchange, but they're down in, I want to say Somerville. And found this one. Frankie and the Knockouts I knew as a band that Tico Torres was first from. Now, I don't think Tico Torres played on this one here. That was a later day era one. He does play on this album here. So we got Tico Torres up there, but we also have Bobby Mazzano, who went on to play with Stars and have his own solo album. So pretty cool. Maybe the other guys went on to do other things too. But, you know, I definitely love flipping this over and seeing their names on here. And of course, I was already interested in Frankie and the Knockouts because of this album Below the Belt, which I think is really good. So finding another one here. This one here being called, is it Making the Power? Yeah, I think so. Sorry, Making the Point. Sometimes it's hard to read these things. Stickers covering this guy up here. But yeah, there you go. So lots and lots of cool stuff. Another big week here. And I will say this again, this is not the normal amount of stuff I buy. I'm usually down in around the 8 to 10 range kind of stuff here. So this is not my normal thing. I will be getting back to the regular amounts of stuff shortly, but it's just, I've moved to New Jersey. I'm finding all these great record stores and you can't pass this stuff up. So that's why it's just more than usual here. And so anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this sort of a supercharged episode of New Music Finds. Hopefully you guys also got some great stuff through the past week. Leave your comments. Let me know your thoughts. Have a great one, everyone, and I will be talking to you very soon. Bye-bye.